So at this point in the process, you have something that looks kind of like this. And now what we're just going to talk about doing is using the align tool as a method of sort of controlling repeated marks. Because as I said, this is just one way to create a series of marks. And you know now that we have the stroke tool, so we can change the type of stroke, the width, and we have an entire brush library that changes the type of paths that it makes. So there's a lot that you can play around with. But if you're repeating an object, it might be helpful to know how to kind of correctly arrange and control it without having to individually place multiple items. So if we look at this shear, there's sort of this like ridge right here. And if I want to embellish that, what I'm going to do is move that out of the way and just remember to keep them in the order that you want. And then with this scissor, for now, I'm just going to lock it just to make drawing on top of it a little bit easier. And you'll notice if you have the Pathfinder tool open, there's a little tab that says Align next to it. And this is helpful just as a means of arranging objects. So if we're going to capture that ridge, let's go over to where our ellipse tool is, and in this instance, let's use the rounded rectangle tool. It doesn't matter which one you use particularly, other than perhaps the star tool. And we're just going to make like a little pill like that. And let's set the fill to white, and we can turn off the stroke. Now, if I copy it and paste it, I can place it right next to each other. And let's say, because I want a lot of these, if you keep hitting V, there should be a lot of them. Yep. Okay. So I've made this cluster of these little pills. And if I want to individually line them all up and space them, I can do that using my snap to guides. But it's more expeditious if I just select all of them and then click on my align tool. And these icons indicate how you're going to align something. So if we use this one, it aligns all of them to the midpoint, whereas this one aligns them all to the bottom, and you can tell by the little icon, the little line at the bottom anchoring the shapes. Because all of the shapes are the same size, it doesn't really matter which of these ones you use. We're just going to use the ones that align vertically versus horizontally. So let's use this one. And now they're all on the same level. But the problem is they're all kind of clustered. So the other thing that you can do if they're too clustered is if you select them all, you might not have the option pop up right away, but if you click this drop down right here and hit show options, you can set the distribution of the spacing between the objects. So if I select that one, it evenly distributes them all. Now looking at this, clearly it's not as long as this shear, so what I'm going to do is just Command C and Command V and paste it. And maybe do that one more time. And for good measure, put them all on the same level. And let's group them. So right click and group. So now I don't have to worry about accidentally putting one out of place. And obviously this is a little bit big to make that little ridge right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold shift, grab a corner. I do not actually need to hold shift in this instance. And just scale them and shrink them to where you see fit. You can then grab them, grab a corner and rotate. And voila. If you find that yours is a little short, you can always paste a second one. and pop it on there as you see fit. So at this point, you can start playing with how you want to arrange your scissors. Keep in mind that because this is locked, we can't group them. So let's unlock it and just group these two shears together. So we should have two separate shears. We're going to turn off that layer at the bottom because we don't really need that as a reference anymore. And we're just going to play with arranging these. Now, as I said before, what's nice is that I can move these as I see fit. So if I want this scissor to rotate and be shut, I can do that. Or if I want to open it, I can do that as well. The other thing to keep in mind is if you decide that you've kind of screwed up what you're working on, I like to keep a set of these just off in the corner so that way no matter what I do, I know that I have a backup pair of shears that I can always revert to if I accidentally screw things up in the process of drawing. And let's play with just arranging some of them. And remember, when you're doing this, they don't all have to be the same dimension. And they do not all have to be the same pattern. You might decide as you start to layer that you want some of these shears to be white. With a black outline. That's your call. In fact, I don't want to see all of these be repeated exactly. I'd like to see a little bit of variance. But one other tool just to keep in mind, let's say you like these scissors, but you want to flip them, you want a mirror image. If I select these and go to transform, you have all these options of positioning. The other way you can achieve this is if you control click, there's an option, there's transform, and then there's reflect. If you hit reflect, you can mirror image it. So if you go 90 degrees, hit OK, now your image has been flipped, so it's mirroring one another versus having to continually spin it or try and redraw it. So that's just another useful tool that you might find helpful as you begin to draw these out. And that's that for that.